"You're not a man, Nathan. You're just a prototype husband," Clara said, tossing her ring onto my workbench right next to my soldering iron. I just stood there, still holding the pliers, wires twisted around my fingers, more confused than angry. My first thought was she'd come out here to bring me snacks, like she sometimes did, but she was already halfway across the garage, suitcase in hand. She didn't even look at me. Her eyes were fixed on the garage door, her jaw flexing like she'd been rehearsing this speech for weeks. "That's it?" I managed, but it came out so quiet I barely heard myself. My voice got swallowed up by the buzzing fluorescent lights and the soft ticking from the circuit board that was still on. Clara snorted. "That's it? Nathan, I'm done waiting around for you to get it together. You spend every night in here with your little nerd tools, building toys for other nerds. You never hear me. You never see me." She leaned over, pushed aside my sketchbook, and stabbed a finger at the ring. "See this? It's supposed to mean something, but honestly, I need someone who actually knows what to do with a woman, not just whatever this is." I glanced past her, out the dusty window. Ryan was sitting in his idiot bright BMW, the engine running, music thumping. He honked, two short, smug beeps. The kind of honk that's not about "I'm here," but "hurry up, I'm bored." I realized then that the neighbors were peeking from their windows across the drive, at least 3 sets of curtains twitching. "Clara, this isn't you," I said, or tried to. It sounded dumb the moment it left my mouth, but I was grasping for something, anything. She let out this brittle laugh, loud enough that I caught another neighbor's blinds jerk shut. "God, you're still clueless. It's always the same. It'll get better. Just wait until the next prototype launches, Clara. Well, I'm done waiting for the next version of you." I don't know what I expected her to say. Maybe to apologize or cry, or at least show a flicker of guilt. But she just rolled her suitcase over my extension cord, almost tripping. She paused at the door, scanned the room like she was cataloging the mess, and then flipped her hair so it brushed my shoulder as she brushed past. Ryan honked again, this time longer. Clara shot me that little side glance, half pity and half smirk. "Enjoy your soldering iron, Nathan. I'm going to get what I deserve." She slammed the door hard enough to make one of my toolboxes rattle. I heard the trunk pop, her suitcase thumping into the car, Ryan's laughter muffled by the glass. Then, just as she slid into the passenger seat, Ryan revved the engine and peeled out, tires squealing like some high school burnout. The taillights faded into the street. I just stood there, alone in the half-lit garage, staring at the ring. It glinted, cheap with guilt and fingerprints. Above it, my reflection showed in the window, pale and stunned, surrounded by wires and blueprints. I could still feel Clara's eyes on me, even after she was gone. Then I realized every neighbor on this side of the building had just witnessed my humiliation. I caught myself half waving at Mrs. Frampton, who ducked away with a look that was half pity, half prurient curiosity. The Judas moment. I couldn't even muster up anger, just that crawling, warm embarrassment that makes you want to crawl into the storage cabinet and close the lid. I didn't move for a long time. I just stared at the ring, the empty driveway, and the ghost of a marriage I didn't even realize was ending until it was already over. By the next morning, the whole building was buzzing. I opened the front door to get the mail and caught the tail end of 2 neighbors whispering in the stairwell. They both looked at me, then away, too quickly like I was contagious. Benjamin showed up around noon, pushing open the door with a 12-pack of cheap beer and a look I hadn't seen before, a mix of worry and barely contained questions. He set the beer down with a thunk. "So, I heard from Julie that you had an event last night?" His tone was careful, but his eyes sort of darted around, searching for proof. I grunted, gesturing toward the garage. "If you want to see for yourself, the ring's still next to the soldering iron. Go ahead. It's like a crime scene." Ben hesitated, then just gave me a sad smile. "Man, I don't get it. I mean, She actually did this with Ryan? In front of everyone? I could tell he wanted to say more. Maybe grill me for details. Ask if I saw it coming. Instead, he just twisted a beer open and handed it to me. Do you want to go out? I know it's early, but I feel like you should be somewhere other than here. Maybe the tap room. Or I could punch Ryan in the face if we run into him. I shook my head. I just want to work. That's it. I'm not really up for talking. Ben leaned back, fiddling with his phone. Nathan, you don't have to do this alone, you know. She made you look like an idiot in front of half the complex. People are talking. I had 3 texts about it before I even got out of bed. I just shrugged. My hands were already reaching for my laptop. Let them talk. I'll take a broken heart over a broken prototype any day. Ben's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, eyebrows shooting up. Oh, you've got to see this. He flipped the screen around. There, on his Instagram feed, was Clara grinning wide, pressed up against Ryan's car, holding a champagne glass. The caption read, "Finally living my diamond life." My throat tightened. Ben watched my face, searching for any crack. She posted it an hour ago, man. Didn't waste any time. I barked out a laugh that sounded more like a choke. Guess she found her diamond, huh? Ben glanced at the picture again. Screw them. Seriously. But, Nathan, you have to know, everyone's seeing this. Everyone in our circle. Even your mom texted me. I stared out the window, watching a different neighbor hurry past, pretending not to see me. Let them watch, I muttered. If Clara wants diamonds that bad, maybe she'll choke on them. But even as I tried to sound tough, all I could feel was the shame crawling under my skin as if their eyes were still on my back. I turned away from the window and went back to my workbench, the ring still lying where Clara left it, cold and out of place. When I woke up the next morning, the house felt bigger and emptier than I remembered. I could hear the echo of my own footsteps across the hardwood as I made coffee, like even the kitchen was in on the joke. I tried not to look at the garage, but every time I passed the hallway, my eyes drifted back to that workbench. The ring still there, right where she'd left it. No matter how many times I blinked, it kept catching the light in that mocking, accidental way. I was just starting to answer some emails when the buzzer went off. I didn't even need to check to know it was Benjamin. He always showed up early after something big, unable to let things sit. I opened the door, and he was there, backpack slung over one shoulder, a bag of bakery croissants dangling from his fingers. "Hey," he said, searching my face for some clue as to whether I was going to throw something or break down. Instead, I just stepped aside and let him in. He set the croissants on the kitchen counter, glancing around like he expected to see a crime scene. "Dude, so I've heard. I mean, everyone's talking. I'm sorry, man." He actually sounded embarrassed, like he was apologizing for the building's collective nosiness. I just shrugged, pouring coffee for both of us. "Don't worry about it. Just another day in paradise, right?" He tried to lighten things up, but his eyes kept darting toward the garage. "So, was it real? I mean, Julie texted me this morning. She said Clara made a scene. That Ryan guy was here? With the car? In the driveway?" I handed him a mug and took a sip from mine, trying to focus on the heat instead of the weird, dense ache in my chest. All true. She tossed the ring, called me a prototype husband, and left with him. Neighbors got the front row seats. Benjamin winced, then ran a hand through his hair. "Man, I'd say it sounds like a soap opera, except even soap operas aren't this brutal. Why'd she do it like that? In public? With Ryan waiting? You'd think she'd have a little decency." I let out a short, humorless laugh. Clara always did like an audience. He gestured with his coffee, voice getting more heated. "Still, it's harsh. People are talking, Nathan. I heard Mrs. Frampton grilling the mailman about it this morning. Did you see the ring? Was it real diamonds or just one of Nathan's prototypes? She actually said that out loud. Right on cue, there was a knock on the door. Mail delivery. Ben opened it, and the mailman gave me a long, searching look, like he was expecting me to burst into tears or start yelling. I just nodded thanks and closed the door, feeling my ears burn. Benjamin caught it too. He tried to sound casual. You know what? Screw these people. Let's go out for a beer later. Clear your head. Get out of the building for a bit. I shook my head and went back to my laptop, pretending to work. Not today. I need to keep my mind on the prototype. Distracts me from everything else. He didn't push, but I could tell he wanted to. He lingered, picking at a croissant, clearly debating whether to dig deeper or let it go. Man, I know you. You're going to bury yourself in work and think it's the solution. Maybe it is for some stuff, but not this. I kept my eyes on the screen. Ben, I appreciate it, but I really just need to get something done. I can't sit around feeling sorry for myself, not after everything. There was an awkward silence, broken only by the sound of my typing. Benjamin finally sat down across from me, eyeing his phone as it buzzed with notifications. You know, everyone's saying Ryan's just using her for the drama, that he'll get bored in a month. I mean, even people who liked Clara are saying it. She burned a lot of bridges. I tried not to react, but he must have seen my jaw clench. Ben's phone buzzed again. He read the notification and his face twisted. Oh, man. Nathan, you need to see this. He turned the phone toward me. On his screen, Clara and Ryan, side by side, both grinning like they just won the lottery. Clara held a glass of champagne, her hand resting on Ryan's chest, his car in the background. The caption in bold, finally living my diamond life. I stared at the screen, then back at my untouched coffee. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter. Benjamin looked at me, his voice softening. You okay? I forced a laugh. Sure. Just what I needed to see first thing in the morning. He set the phone down, not sure what else to say. Outside the window, a couple of kids rode by on their bikes, one glancing over his shoulder at our building. Word, I realized, had gotten around faster than I'd ever imagined. There was nothing left to do but go back to work. But now, as I sat there, the image of Clara and Ryan burned behind my eyes, taunting me with the certainty that everyone was watching, and no one was going to let me forget it. The conference room was freezing. Maybe the air conditioning was up too high, or maybe it was just my nerves, but I sat at the end of the long table, gripping a chipped mug filled with bad office coffee, waiting for the circus to start. There were folders with my name on them, yellow legal pads, and a giant fake plant in the corner that looked more alive than I felt. Clara swept in 10 minutes late, heels clacking, sunglasses still on, her phone glued to her hand. The first thing I noticed was the necklace, a giant, glittering thing that could have come out of a candy machine. She dropped her bag on the chair, made a show of fluffing her hair, and glanced around as if she was here for a photo shoot. Sorry I'm late, she said, not sounding sorry at all. Traffic was a nightmare. Well, I guess you wouldn't know, Nathan, working from your garage and all. She plopped down across from me, and the necklace swung so hard it almost hit her in the face. Her lawyer, a guy who looked like he'd just walked off a car commercial, flashed a too-wide smile at me. Nathan, nice to meet you. I'm sure we can get through this as painlessly as possible. He started stacking up paperwork, already prepping his script. My own lawyer, older, tired, definitely not bright-toothed, just nodded at me like, hang in there. Clara slid off her sunglasses, making sure I caught the full effect of her smirk. So, how do you want to do this? Are we splitting everything 50-50, including the soldering iron? She laughed and looked at her lawyer, who laughed too, fake and sharp. Her lawyer jumped in. We'd like to discuss an equitable split, considering Clara's contributions to the household and her needs moving forward. Also, we believe there's significant value in Nathan's business, projected growth, intellectual property, and so on. I stared at the fake diamond on Clara's neck, then met her eyes. You want half of the startup? You never wanted anything to do with it. My voice was calm, but the anger simmered underneath. Clara rolled her eyes, making a show of fiddling with her necklace. Oh, come on, Nathan. I supported you for years. I listened to all your dreams. Don't act like I didn't put in anything. You can't just split the soldering iron and call it a day. Her lawyer leaned forward, almost on cue. Given the potential of the business in Clara's current situation, we'll be asking for a fair share of projected profits as well as immediate assets. Also spousal support, considering her career interruption. I sat there, swallowing everything I wanted to yell, just watching as Clara toyed with her fake diamond, showing it off like it was real. The whole thing was a performance, every gesture exaggerated for my benefit. She grinned at me, voice dripping with sarcasm. Don't worry, Nathan. Ryan thinks I'm worth real diamonds, not prototypes. Her lawyer chuckled along, and even my own lawyer's jaw ticked as he scribbled a note. Most of the meeting was her side talking, me just nodding or shaking my head, letting them run out the clock. Every so often, Clara would say something else just loud enough for the assistants outside to hear. Maybe Nathan can build a robot to take my place. Or he always liked things that didn't talk back. It was humiliating, but the more she performed, the easier it got to tune her out. I caught her lawyer glancing at my watch, my shoes, doing quick math in his head. I could feel the suspicion growing. This wasn't about the relationship. It was about bleeding me dry. As the meeting wound down, Clara tossed her hair and stretched fake diamonds glinting in the light. Well, this was fun, she said, voice high and bright. Let's try not to drag it out. Ryan hates paperwork. She didn't even let the door close before turning to her lawyer in the hall. Do you think I could get half the patents? Or is that just for real wives? Her laughter echoed down the corridor, making the receptionist wince. I left the building feeling wrung out, but strangely focused. She wanted to play games. Fine. I knew what she was after now. As soon as I got out to the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text from her. Just so you know, Ryan's already picked out a real ring for me. I stared at it for a long time, phone hovering over the screen, anger settling in like a cold weight. I didn't reply. Instead, I watched as the message marked read and waited, knowing this wasn't even close to being over. Dinner with my parents was exactly as awkward as I'd dreaded. They picked a quiet spot at an Italian place we used to go to for birthdays. The kind where the waiter hovers just long enough to hear if you're fighting, and the menu hasn't changed since 1995. Dad started off strong, digging into the breadbasket, but Mom just kept glancing at me across the table with this pinched look like she was trying to remember if she'd forgotten my birthday. She finally set her fork down and cut right to it. Nathan, we're worried about you, she said, keeping her voice soft but not exactly private. Clara called last week, you know. I could tell something was wrong, but she wouldn't say much. Dad chimed in, trying to play neutral. We just want to make sure you're okay. You haven't called. We haven't seen you. I stabbed at my pasta, swirling it until it almost fell off the plate. I'm all right. Things are just over. We're sorting the paperwork out. It's not a big deal. I tried to sound casual, but my voice felt thin, almost unrecognizable. Mom didn't buy it. Not a big deal. Nathan, you've been married almost 7 years. You barely leave the garage lately. We used to see Clara all the time, now she's just gone? She paused, eyes narrowed. Did you two fight? Was it the work again? You know, your father used to stay late at the office. Dad cleared his throat, giving her a warning glance. Let's not pick at it, honey. Everyone's got their pace. She didn't let up. I just want to know if you're all right, if you need help or someone to talk to, or forgiveness if you made a mistake. I set my fork down, maybe a little too hard. There's no one to blame. It just stopped working. Sometimes people want different things. I didn't mention Ryan or the ring or how Clara had humiliated me in front of the whole neighborhood. It felt pointless, like handing them ammunition they'd never know what to do with. Dad leaned in, voice lower. Son, I know you. You bury yourself in your projects when things get tough, but you can't build a life out of blueprints. You have to come up for air or you'll miss everything. I wanted to tell them the truth, but the words stuck. Instead, I just nodded, letting them fill the gap with their own guesses about what had gone wrong. We ate the rest of the meal in uneasy silence, the clink of silverware louder than any conversation. Mom offered me her untouched tiramisu, like sugar could fix anything. I forced a smile, took a bite, and barely tasted it. When the check came and Dad slid it toward himself with a sigh, "If you ever want to talk, Nathan, you know where to find us. Maybe take a break from the garage for a bit, yeah?" I promised I would, just to end the conversation. On the drive home, the silence in the car was so heavy I could barely breathe. I stared out the window, watching lights flicker by, thinking about what it would take to actually start over. Then, as we turned onto my street, my phone buzzed with a new email notification. I unlocked it out of habit, expecting junk, except this one had a subject line that made me blink. Congrats, you're in? Tech Accelerator Acceptance, Diamond Track Cohort. For a second, I just stared. Then I opened it, reading the words twice to make sure I wasn't misinterpreting. They wanted my prototype. They wanted me. No Clara, no partners, no prototype husband, just me and what I'd built. Mom glanced at me as I got out of the car. Everything all right, honey? I nodded. Yeah, maybe for the first time in a while. They drove off, headlights fading. I stood on the curb, clutching my phone, letting the glow of that one good message settle over everything else. For the first time since Clara had walked out, I let myself feel something like hope. After that email, it was like someone lit a fire under me. I practically lived at the shared workspace the accelerator gave us, barely going home except to sleep and shower. Benjamin dove right in with me, always 2 steps ahead when it came to paperwork, emails, or pitching angles. Our desks were cluttered with circuit boards, synthetic gemstones, and prototype casings, but for the first time in ages, the chaos felt like momentum. It wasn't glamour, not at first. Most days, we ate cold sandwiches under fluorescent lights and built demo units with the tools I dragged in from my garage. Ben would crack jokes to keep things light, but he was laser focused when it mattered. Okay, Nathan, if the next batch of stones holds up to the heat test, we'll actually have something worth showing off. If not, well, at least you'll have a new hobby. By the time we had our first investor meeting, I was running on adrenaline and 2 hours of sleep. The conference room was full of older men in sharp suits and one woman with diamond earrings that probably cost more than my car. The lead guy, Mr. Sloan, flipped through our pitch deck like he was swatting flies. So, you're telling me you want to disrupt the diamond industry with, what, engineered stones and a Wi-Fi chip? He looked right at me, eyebrow arched. Engineers don't make diamonds, kid. They make calculators. I didn't rise to the bait. I just nodded, let Benjamin handle the suits, and set up the demo rig. Would you like to try it yourself? I asked, offering a stone for inspection. The woman leaned in, turning it over in her hand, her earrings glittering under the lights. Feels just like the real thing, she admitted, almost grudgingly. Sloan snorted. Sure it does, but nobody wants a computer in their jewelry. I kept my answer short. People want meaning, not just sparkle. We make pieces that tell stories, that connect. The tech is invisible. What matters is what it gives people. He gave me a skeptical look, but I caught one of the junior investors nodding. By the end of the meeting, we had a promise to review our numbers, and Ben shot me a thumbs up behind his laptop. The next few weeks were more of the same. Show up, pitch, get dismissed, and slowly win people over with the demo. Jewelers were the worst. One guy literally squinted at the stone through a loop and said, "You ever even held a real diamond, son?" Ben just grinned and answered, "Only the ones we grow ourselves," while I let the tech do the talking. With every maybe or come back next month, my confidence grew. I stopped checking Claire's social media. I barely thought about Ryan. I couldn't control what people said about me, but I could control what I built. Then came the industry showcase, a big, glitzy event we probably had no business attending, but Ben talked us in. We set up our display under harsh lights, surrounded by velvet draped cases and gold-plated logos. I was adjusting one of our demo necklaces when a group of investors drifted over, drinks in hand. I recognized Sloan, flanked by two colleagues. One of them nudged him and laughed. "Hey, isn't that Nathan? What was it, Nathan Bell? The one whose wife ran off looking for a real diamond guy?" His voice carried farther than he thought. I saw a couple of other people glance over. Benjamin stiffened, but I just gave the guy a cold, easy smile. "Yeah, that's me. Funny thing about diamonds, they take pressure to make, and a lot of people crack under it." Then I turned back to our demo and started showing off the app that paired with our stones. Sloan watched for a second, a smirk on his face, but he didn't say anything else. Instead, the woman with the diamond earring stepped forward, interested. "So, what makes your stones different again?" she asked. I explained while the group listened, but I could feel the eyes on my back. The story was out there now, my humiliation woven into the rumor mill. Benjamin caught my eye as the crowd thinned. "You handled that better than I would have," he murmured. "Guess people really are talking." "Let them," I said quietly, feeling something settle inside me for the first time. "We're not here to impress them. We're here to prove them wrong." The event buzzed around us, but beneath it all, I felt a steady current hope, anticipation, the stubborn grit that told me I wasn't done yet. The world could talk all it wanted. I was just getting started. The first contract came through at 10:02 a.m. on a Tuesday, buried in my inbox between a spammy coupon and a reminder to update my software. It took a second for it to sink in. A big-name retailer wanted to stock our pieces nationwide. I just sat there staring at the email, rereading their logo, like it might vanish if I blinked. I called Benjamin over. He almost knocked his coffee onto the prototype tray, then let out a cheer loud enough to make people in the open workspace stare. "We did it, dude. We actually did it. They want 50 units to start. They're giving us a launch event. I told you this would pay off." He slapped me on the back and jogged in place, grinning like I'd just handed him a winning lottery ticket. I grinned too, but I couldn't quite let myself celebrate the way he did. I'd learned not to get too high on the wins, especially not with so many eyes on us now. The press got wind of the deal fast. Within a week, we were fielding requests for interviews, photos, studio tours. For the first time, people started treating us like the real thing, not just a couple of geeks playing with rocks. Our company's name started popping up on design blogs, and a segment about tech disruptors featured a 30-second clip of me explaining the story behind our first ring. It was surreal. Benjamin kept joking that he was going to buy a hot tub and work from it. "I mean it, man. We'll get one of those champagne fridges and put an office in the sky. Why not? You finally get to be the cool guy." But what stood out most was how people suddenly changed their tune, especially at the cocktail event the retailer hosted for us. It was in a converted art gallery, all tall windows, exposed brick, and waiters with trays of things I couldn't even identify. Ben and I stuck together at first, a little out of place in our basic suits. Then the socialites showed up. like sharks to blood in the water. Most of them were people I recognized from Clara's old parties, women who'd barely spoken to me before, and men who used to crack jokes about my DIY suits. Now they hovered near the display table, their voices syrupy, their hands lingering on the jewelry. One woman with a glass of white wine bumped into me and gave me an exaggerated double take. Nathan? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were the brains behind all this. Clara always said you tinkered, but this is incredible. Her jaw worked with forced awe. I smiled, polite but reserved. Thanks. We've worked hard. Another one, Lauren, leaned in with a conspiratorial giggle. We were just saying you've really come into your own. Who knew Clara was sitting on a gold mine? Well, diamond mine, I guess. She and her friend burst out laughing, louder than necessary. Benjamin rolled his eyes behind their backs and then turned to refill his drink. As more people gathered, I realized I was suddenly someone worth talking to. No one mentioned the garage, the prototype husband, or Ryan. For most of the night, it was question after question about launches and future plans. As the night wound down, I stepped out onto the balcony for air. That's when Madison, one of Clara's more outspoken friends, followed me out, heels clacking, wine sloshing dangerously. She leaned against the railing beside me, a little too close, and peered up with that familiar and mischievous look. So, Nathan, do you ever regret letting her go? She gave a pointed pause. You know Clara's single again, right? Ryan didn't stick around. That landed harder than I'd expected. I stared out at the city lights for a moment, weighing my words. No regrets, I said lightly, but thanks for the update. Life's got a funny sense of timing, doesn't it? She gave me a lazy, lingering smile, waiting for something more. When I didn't bite, she shrugged and wandered off, rejoining the others inside. I stood there a moment longer, watching my reflection in the window. The man looking back wasn't just a prototype anymore. The echo of Clara's crowd chirping behind me only pushed me further. Inside, Ben caught my eye and gestured with his glass. They're eating out of your hand, man, he said, half laughing, half relieved. You ready for what's next? I nodded. For the first time, anticipation felt good. Vindication was nice, but building something better was even better. By the time 2 years had passed, the company was way bigger than anything I'd imagined in that cluttered garage. There were actual employees, product launches, and interviews where people pretended to care about my vision. That was still weird to me, being called a success by people who'd never given me a second look before. The tech news video happened on a rainy Thursday. A camera crew crowded into our workshop, asking for shots of me pretending to fine-tune a necklace, asking about disruption, asking for sound bites. I played along, said my lines, smiled at the right moments, nodded about the future of smart luxury. Benjamin, off camera, made faces until I almost laughed during the serious questions. When the piece dropped, it was a bigger deal than I thought. My inbox exploded. Investors, old friends, people who'd ignored me in high school. My phone was buzzing so much in the elevator that I thought it might overheat. But the real shock came after midnight, when my phone vibrated with a number I hadn't seen in months. Just Clara glowing on the screen. I stared at it for a while before even opening the message. I saw your interview. I get it now. I'm sorry. It was so short, so casual, that it almost made me laugh. For a second, I felt my pulse spike, like all the old nerves were back. But it wasn't nerves. It was something colder, steadier. For the first time, I was the one in control. I waited a few minutes, then typed, "Hope you're well, let's catch up sometime." I didn't add a smiley face or a question mark. Just sent it, then tossed the phone onto my nightstand and listened to the city buzzing outside. It only took 20 minutes for her to answer, this time with a wall of text. She was so proud of what I'd built. She always knew I had something special. She'd been thinking about the old days a lot and missed having someone who really understood her. Ryan was gone. He wasn't who I thought he was. She wrote like it was something that had happened to her, not something she'd chosen. She ended with, "Dinner soon? I'd love to see your new place. Maybe we can talk about a fresh start." I sat there, just staring at the message. Her tone had flipped. It was nostalgic, needy. I could almost see her rehearsing the lines again, just like she had in the garage. The difference was, this time, the script was mine. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I closed my eyes and let the feeling of control settle over me, cold, clear, and satisfying. But the game wasn't over. If Clara wanted back in, she'd have to play by my rules now. I wasn't the mark anymore. I picked a Thursday for Clara to come by, early evening, just before sunset, when the city lights started flickering outside my windows and the apartment looked its best. I made sure the place was staged, but not showy. Glass display cases set up with new prototypes, clean lines, a couple of art books stacked on the coffee table. The only real clue the place belonged to me was a soldering iron kit in the corner, hinting at my roots, but now surrounded by polished crystal and subtle gold. She showed up 5 minutes late, of course, hair curled, dressed too expensive for someone between jobs. The moment the door swung open, Clara's eyes widened, and she stepped in like she was entering a five-star hotel. She spun on the spot, letting her purse dangle from her wrist. "Nathan, wow. I mean, this is incredible. I always knew you'd end up somewhere amazing, but this," she let out a low whistle, brushing her fingers over a sculpted display. "Are these all your designs?" I kept my smile polite, just enough to keep things friendly but not too warm. "Every piece in here is a prototype, actually. Work in progress, part of the process." She moved closer, running her hand lightly over a necklace. "They're beautiful. So much more refined than the old stuff you used to tinker with." Her eyes lingered on the biggest ring, a one-off piece I kept just for show. "I've never seen anything like this in a store." I shrugged, offering her a glass of wine. "We do limited runs, custom work. There's a lot more interest now than when I was working out of the garage." Clara took the glass gratefully, sipping as she sauntered through the room. She kept glancing at me, almost studying my expression, like she was hoping I'd break into a big, grateful grin. "It's so impressive, Nathan. I mean, really. You always had the brains, but this, you look like you actually sleep these days." "That's what good partners in a good business can do," I said casual. "Benjamin keeps me on track. We barely have time to stop and celebrate sometimes." She perched on the edge of my sleek gray couch, crossing her legs, the wine glass spinning between her hands. "You deserve it. I mean, after everything. You must have so many people in your life now. New friends, new circles. But I bet it gets lonely at the top, doesn't it?" Her voice dropped, just a hint of old vulnerability sneaking in. "Sometimes, starting over, it isn't so easy." I sat down across from her, keeping my posture open but guarded. "It's different, yeah, but not lonely. I'm grateful for the way things worked out, even the hard parts." She let the silence hang, her eyes searching mine for something. "It's funny," she started, a soft laugh coming out. "I used to think happiness was about having the right things. The best address, the most beautiful ring. Now I'm realizing it's about having the right person beside you, and maybe a second chance." The act was almost flawless, but I saw her scanning the room for clues, trying to guess how much of my world she could still fit into. I offered her more wine, and she scooted closer, her tone shifting from wistful to flirtatious. "I'm really happy you invited me, Nathan. I miss this, us talking, dreaming. Sometimes I wish we hadn't let everything get so messy." She reached out, tracing her finger across the rim of her glass, then set it down with a small clink and leaned in. Without warning, she kissed me, soft, desperate longing. I let her, holding still, just enough pressure to make her think she was wanted, but my eyes stayed open, calm and cold. She pulled back, breathless, searching my face for warmth. Maybe we could try again? I just smiled that same polite, cool smile, the one that says everything and nothing at all. I could see her wanting to believe she'd seduced me, that she was back in control. But the truth was, I never felt further from her, and I'd never felt more certain about what came next. After that night, Clara started stopping by a lot more. There was always an excuse. She was just in the neighborhood, or wanted to see the latest collection, or my personal favorite, needed a safe place to land. Every time she was dressed to the nines, like she wanted my neighbors to recognize her and ask what rich guy she'd snagged this time. She'd breeze in, air kissing my cheek, and immediately zero in on whatever new jewelry prototypes I had lying around. Nathan, these are stunning. Oh my God, is this a new cut? It's so unique. She'd turn a ring over and over in her hand, always pausing just long enough for me to offer it up. I started gifting her pieces from the test batch, the ones with slight flaws only a jeweler would spot, a microchip in the edge, a slightly off-center stone, a clasp that sometimes stuck. I played it up like I was letting her in on a secret. This is one I haven't shown anyone else. It's exclusive, Clara, only for you. She'd light up, eyes wide and greedy, clapping a necklace around her throat or sliding on a ring from Maximum Sparkle. I can't believe you trust me with this. I feel so special. She'd snap selfies on my balcony, making sure the skyline was in the background, always tagging my company, always with some variation of #blessed. Benjamin caught on fast. The first time he saw Clara wearing a slightly cloudy diamond bracelet at a company event, he elbowed me with a smirk. Giving out the development diamonds, only the best for the best customers. He made a show of bowing to Clara, and she preened, basking in the attention. At a cocktail party, the whole thing blew up. Clara showed up in a white cocktail dress, shimmering in 2 necklaces and a pair of earrings only I and Ben knew were technically rejects. She swanned around the crowd, fielding compliments like royalty. Oh, these? Nathan designed them for me personally. They're not even in stores yet. She'd worked her way into a little knot of highbrow clients, women who'd shelled out for the premium line. One of them, a woman named Elise, who'd been on the cover of a luxury mag, leaned in and took a closer look at Clara's ring. That's interesting, Elise said, holding Clara's hand up to the light. Nathan, didn't you discontinue this setting? I thought the prong design had an alignment flaw. Clara's hand trembled ever so slightly. Oh, well, mine is special. Nathan gives me early access. It's different from what you'd find in stores. Elise wasn't buying it. It's just that the stone looks a little cloudy on this side. Is it a new material? Before I could answer, another client piped up. Is that the clasp with the old hinge? I had to exchange mine. It kept sticking. The attention shifted, the mood changing. Clara's smile faltered for half a second, but she covered it with a high laugh. I guess that's the price of exclusivity, right? But the other women started whispering, taking longer looks at her, their eyes shifting from admiration to curiosity, then a little bit of something meaner. I watched, sipping my drink, as the realization crept across Clara's face. She was on display, but not in the way she wanted. Benjamin slid up next to me, murmuring, "She's got the best of the test batch, man. No one else can say that." "Yeah, she's one of a kind," I replied, keeping my expression friendly as the questions kept coming. Clara tried to rally, but the gossip had started. People were looking her up and down, murmuring about seconds and development pieces. The shift in social status was visible. It was like watching a queen get quietly dethroned in real time. She caught my eye across the room, searching for reassurance. I just raised my glass and smiled. The party went on, but something fundamental had changed. Clara's shine wasn't coming from the jewelry anymore. She'd become an accessory to my story. And now, everyone could see it. The next few months with Clara blurred into what I can only describe as a hollow routine. She was around a lot, but it was different now. Dinners at trendy places, expensive wine, even some nights together. She played the girlfriend role hard, hanging on my arm at events, posting filtered photos of us clinking glasses, acting like the queen again. To everyone else, it looked like a dramatic comeback. Nathan finally forgave Clara, and now she was living the high life. But under all that, nothing was real. I kept the affection surface level, never letting her get too close. She didn't notice. Or maybe she just didn't care to. Clara wanted the lifestyle, the restaurants, the jewelry, the illusion that she'd been missed and was back where she belonged. I gave her gifts, sure. Jewelry that wouldn't pass muster for our clients. Dinners that were more about appearances than celebration. She drank it all in, grinning for selfies, posting stories about gratitude and authentic second chances. Benjamin saw right through it. At the company, he'd catch my eye when Clara swooped in for lunch, trailing perfume and compliments for anyone who looked her way. Once, as she walked off to powder her nose, he slid a note across my desk. "You running a test on relationship durability or just bored?" I just smirked. "Let's call it user research," I said. Ben grinned, shaking his head, but he didn't push. He trusted me to handle it. What outsiders noticed was Clara's social comeback. The old crowd started whispering, first with surprise, then with a kind of envy. Clara was in photos again, always with new jewelry, always with me. But the tone changed at our events. She'd wander the parties, talking up her exclusive pieces, but the insiders knew what she wore wasn't top shelf. And beneath the politeness, there was a distance in how people treated her. Polite, but never really warm. It all came to a head at our company's new product launch party. We hosted it at a sleek rooftop bar, glass everywhere, the skyline glowing behind us. Clara arrived on my arm, dazzling but a little anxious, her hand gripping mine tighter than usual. As we moved through the crowd, I made sure she met everyone, but always with just a shade too much formality, always just a step behind. The other execs nodded. The PR people smiled, but it was clear she was just there for the photo ops. After the speeches, I took her gently by the elbow and brought her to the front. "Everyone, if you haven't met her, this is Clara, our model for development diamonds." I kept my tone light, all business. She's been giving us great feedback on our beta pieces. There was a ripple of polite applause. That was it. No special attention, no fawning. The team moved on, talking about sales numbers and units shipped, leaving Clara standing beside me, glass in hand, her smile just a little too stiff. Later, as the party went on, I watched as she tried to blend in with the partners' circle. Every time she introduced herself, she got a nod and a polite smile, but the conversation always drifted away. She wasn't the center. She wasn't even the guest of honor. For the first time, I saw her realize she was just another face in the glossy crowd, pretty, accessorized, and replaceable. Benjamin wandered over, watching her quietly. "You all right?" he asked, not quite hiding his satisfaction. "Yeah," I said, my voice steady. It's about time she understood what it feels like. Clara caught my eye from across the room, looking for reassurance, maybe a sign that she was different. I just raised my glass in her direction and turned back to my conversation. At that moment, I knew she was finally on the outside looking in, and there was no coming back. It's late, and the city outside is just a blur of lights behind the glass. Clara is curled up next to me in my bed, her head on my chest, fingers absent-mindedly playing with the necklace I never take off, the one that started it all. She's glowing, humming to herself, wrapped in a silk robe she borrowed from my closet like she's always belonged here. She looks up at me, all soft and dreamy, and says, "Nathan, I feel like we finally made it. After everything, this is our new life, right? I always knew it would be you and me in the end. I'm so proud of you, of us." I don't answer. I just watch her, letting her talk herself deeper into the fantasy. She traces the diamond pendant, holding it up to the light. It's so perfect. You make everything you touch shine. You know that? I can't wait to see what we build together next. Her voice is syrupy, clinging, and she leans in to kiss my neck, giggling when she feels the cold metal brush her lips. Diamonds really are forever. I guess I get to polish yours every day now, huh? I look at her, really look at her, spoiled and smug, convinced she's won. I don't feel a thing. There's no anger, no regret, not even satisfaction. Just cold, private irony. Because in the end, she got exactly what she asked for. She wanted diamonds. Now she polishes mine.